Okay guys, so we're gonna go ahead and hop right into the lesson for today. We're gonna be talking about TPC charts, okay? Now TPC charts, they're an incredible tool that we've got to make sure that we're using when we're in the field, all right? Now a couple things you should know about the TPC chart. There's no such thing as a bad TPC chart. It is strictly just a training tool. The only time a TPC chart would be considered bad would be if it is inaccurate, right? So when we're out in the field, at all costs, make sure that you have a perfectly accurate TPC chart. Otherwise, it ends up just being useless, right? So we're gonna hop right into it. So the T, guys, the T stands for table, the P stands for presentation, the C stands for close, the I stands for iPad, the A stands for apps or applications, or in this case, sales, right? That's when we actually finish. Now, in order to get an actual table for AT&T, the customer has to give us their price, right? So the customer needs to tell us, hey, I'm paying, such and such amount of money per month. If they do not tell us how much they're paying, it doesn't count as a table. In order to count as a presentation, we need to tell the customer our price, meaning, so today, Mr. Customer, for unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data, your total cost per month is going to be, $160. If we do not tell them our price, it does not count as a presentation. In order to count something as a close, the customer, we first need to close, right? Hey, it's one thing to save money, it's nothing to qualify. We're gonna check, see if you qualify, how do you spell your first name? The customer then needs to give us an objection, and we need to overcome that objection by closing a second time. If we do not close a second time, it does not count as a close. If we do close a second time and the customer still doesn't want to go with us or do anything with us, that's fine. We still count it as a close, but make sure that we close the second time in order to count it as such. Moving on to the iPad. In order to count something for the iPad, we have to get all of their information into Sarah Plus, meaning their first name, last name, email, phone number, address, and then get to the green check mark on the top left-hand corner of the screen before we do a credit check. If we can get that green check mark before we've pulled out their driver's license, it counts as getting on the iPad. And then of course, obviously an app would be an actual sale. So finishing the whole process, finishing the trade-in, and getting the green strip of approval at the end of the sale on Sarah Plus. Now, moving on to the conversion ratios. Now, what you guys should be seeing is this solid, from going from table to presentation, 95% of the tables that we do should convert into presentations. Now, for the presentations, 75% of the presentations should convert into closes. If you're seeing a lower percentage, then we'll talk about what to do in just a second, all right? Then, of course, from close to iPad, there should be a minimum of a 50% of your closes should go from close onto the iPad, and then from iPad to sale, we should have another 50% of the iPads that we get should convert into the actual sale. So let's start off with a table to presentation. If my table to presentation conversion is lower than 95%, generally what's taking place is we're putting way too much pressure on the fact that this is a sale rather than it just being a conversation with the customer. The customer comes into the situation with all these guards put up and they're consistently saying, hey, nah, man, I'm not interested, I don't want a phone, so on and so forth. We're losing the customer before we can get to this. If that's taking place, we've got to make sure that we're putting pressure on it just being a conversation rather than it being on a sale. So I'm going to start saying things in the pitch such as, hey man, no worries, if nothing else today, we'll just make friends for 30 seconds, right? It can also be maybe we're not getting, or maybe we're not using our C factors and smiling enough and showing that enthusiasm, right? So using our C factors and taking pressure off of it being a sale is gonna help out with the conversion from table to presentation. Going from presentation to close, if my presentation to close ratio or conversion is lower than 75%, there could be a few different things happening. Number one, we could just straight up be forgetting to close, right? I know that happens sometimes. We'll get busy talking about the product and having fun, going over the rehash, right? Talking about the better phone service, the gift cards and the phones, and we'll just forget to pull the trigger and actually close, right? So if you're seeing a very low conversion rate from presentation to close, you're probably just forgetting to close. The other thing it could be is that we're not confident in our close. we're a little bit too timid. The customer is kind of, gonna say no, or the customer doesn't really believe in what you have to say because of the lack of confidence. Or we could be waiting for the customer to say, you know what, yeah, let's do it. Which we all know is never gonna happen, right? That customer is never gonna say, okay, let's do it, right? So we've got to make sure that we are being assumptive and actually closing, okay? If you're seeing a low conversion, that's the main reason that's going to give you that. Going from close to iPad, if we're seeing a conversion that's less than 50%, generally, we're not overcoming objections properly, right? We're not overcoming objections properly. We need to make sure that we're networking with our leaders or watching some of the other videos on this, making sure that we are overcoming objections to the best of our ability. That could be one reason. Another reason would be that we're not even trying to overcome an objection, right? So I close on a customer, hey man, it's one thing to save money, it's nothing to qualify. We're gonna check to see if you qualify, how do you spell your first name? The customer responds with, bro, I'm not that interested. And then we respond back with, hey, no worries, you have a great rest of your day, okay? So that's letting the customer go way too early when we should have responded with, no worries, what's your biggest hesitation for today? And then overcoming the objection, closing again, so that we can count it as a close, and then getting into the iPad, right? If I do overcome the objection, but I have zero confidence in what I'm saying, the customer's not going to give us their first name, their last name, or any of that other kind of stuff. So we've got to make sure that we're confident in that and using that assumptive, confident closing. Also, we could be using some kill words, right? If you don't know what kill words are, make sure that you watch some of the other videos on this channel to learn about what not to say when you're talking with customers. Then jumping in from iPad to app, if we're having an issue with that, again, it's going to come down to confidence as well as, okay, if I'm talking with a customer and I don't really know what I'm doing on Sarah Plus, and the customer starts getting a little shaky, which means we start getting a little shaky, and then something bad might happen, and now we're kind of flustered. We don't really know what to do. The customer's not going to know what to do. That customer is going to mirror whatever it is that you're doing. So if you're nice, cool, calm, collected, just having some fun with the customer, right? Going through the process, picking out the colors of the phone, the customer is going to be nice, cool, calm, and collected, right? I don't know if this I don't know if this has happened to you guys yet, but at some point you're going to be going through Sarah Plus, and then for some unknown reason your Sarah Plus is just going to crash, right? And you're going to have to redo the whole order. Now the worst thing you can do when Sarah Plus crashes is go, we have to redo the whole thing. What are we supposed to do? Right now, that customer is going to look at you and be like, I don't want to do that. Thank you so much, though. And they're going to walk away, right? No, instead, what we should do is we should look at our iPad and be like, all right, no worries. I tell you what, I just got to redo something really quick. So how do you spell your first name, right? Keeping nice, cool, calm, collected, and the customer is going to mirror what it is that you're doing. Now, there's one last conversion that we haven't talked about yet, and that's going to be the actual tables itself. If we're not getting a ton of tables, generally, it's going to come down to our C factors, right? So if we aren't having that smile, that eye contact, and that enthusiasm when we're talking with every single customer, they're not going to come over and talk to us, and we're going to end up losing, the tables that we need to be able to feed our funnel. Hopefully this was useful for you guys. If you're looking at a half shift, you should be getting a minimum of 15 tables. A full shift should be a minimum of 30 tables, okay? And then of course, 95%, 75, 50, and 50. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your guys' day, and we will see you in the field tomorrow.